Well, hello and welcome to episode 725 of PhotoKitchen. I'm your humble host, MD Welch, and today we're talking about the July 2024 update to Adobe Photoshop. Adobe's releasing these updates kind of fast and furious, but I will say that this update has a lot of features in it. The question, though, is are these features actually going to be of any use to you? And this will just depend on your workflow and how you're currently using tools, and if these tools will make your life easier or just something that you're like, great, another icon on the toolbar. There are two tools that I'm going to talk about in this particular video and a new feature concerning AI. So let's just jump right into it. The first tool is what is called the selection brush tool. It is grouped with the lasso tool, the polygonal and magnetic lasso tools. It should not be confused with the quick selection tool. Now, the selection tool or selection brush tool is actually a update to a very old feature that Adobe has had all the way back to the 20th century. That's right, we're talking the 90s. That feature or tool was called the quick mask mode. And if you go underneath your foreground background color, you will see a box with a circle inside of it. This is the quick mask button. And if you click on it, your layer will highlight in usually a red. You can change this color in preferences. I forget where it is because nobody really uses this anymore. And the tab, if you're in the tab modes, will say quick mask in here. Now, the function of quick mask all the way back in the 90s was this was the only way to make a selection with a brush. There wasn't a lot of selection tools, and there certainly wasn't any automatic selection tools whatsoever. So what you would do is select a drawing tool of your choice. We're going to grab the brush tool here. I'm in the quick mask mode. I'll just hit D on the keyboard for default. Black needs to be your foreground color. And what you're going to do is you're going to paint over your subject. And what you're doing is you're essentially masking out. Right? So you're seeing here that you don't want, in this particular case, the subject's face and upper torso. When I go out of quick mask mode by clicking on the button again, or most importantly, by hitting the letter Q for quick mask on the keyboard, you will get marching ants here. And by the way, the only reason why I still teach quick mask in every Photoshop class I have is because people accidentally hit Q and have no idea what's just happened to their computer and not realize they have to hit Q again or hit that icon. So important thing to point out. Now, if I wanted what I just painted over to be selected, I would have to go up to select, I would do inverse, and now I have this area as a selection. And I'm just going to do a good old-fashioned keyboard shortcut here. On the Mac, I'll hold down Command and J as in joy. That'd be Control on Windows, J as in joy, and that just takes whatever's inside marching ants or a selection and makes it a brand new layer. And you could see this here. Now, the beauty of this is you could paint, you could control your brushness, hardness, softness, and you could get a selection without having to worry about feathering or anything like that. And it was powerful. It just never was used as much as you thought it would. So Adobe figured, well, let's just take another shot at it, I guess. And that's essentially what the selection tool or selection brush, is. It is the quick mask tool without being in quick mask mode. And it also is a little bit more intuitive to use. On the actual options bar, you will have your standard options. You will be able to add, subtract if you've actually painted something. You have basic opacity, you will have your brush size, and then you'll have a gear that will allow you to change the color. So I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to go ahead and paint over the subject just like I did a moment ago. Now, one thing I will point out is since I'm doing a red on pink kind of photo, it's probably good to change this color. And also it gives me the opportunity to say the word chartreuse in a PhotoKitchen episode. Never thought that would happen, but there you go. Chartreuse, and now it's easier to see. Now, the benefit of this is that you could change your hardness and softness of the brush, just like with quick mask. So you can create a feathered selection without having to go through all of that feathering nonsense or making a mask and then using mask feather here. So this does have some potential depending on how you work inside of Photoshop. By the way, a nice little trick to know on the Mac, if you hold down Command and Option, or this would be Control and right click on Windows, I believe, you will get what's called Live Brush Preview or changes here. And when you click on it, what it will do is it will give you your brush size. If you go left or right, you can change it, and then your hardness up or down. Now, since of course I've picked an image with red, it's a little bit harder to see unless I go out the background here, but it's great because you could visualize the size of the brush and the hardness of the brush, and then you could come in and do whatever you need to do for your selection. Now, as long as you have the selection brush selected, and by the way, I'm realizing how much I'm using the word select and selection here, you will always see the brush strokes, but the minute you switch to another selection tool that primarily uses marching ants, it will convert to marching ants. But if you go back to the selection brush, there you go, you will have this set up here. So again, I could do Command J and I can put this on a new layer. Again, that's Control J for my Windows users. And now you have selections, abstract selections, selections that you're making by hand, quick and easy. You don't have to have some sort of weird workflow inside of Photoshop, but you still have to remember that Quick Mask is there and can be accidentally turned on or off by hitting the letter Q on your keyboard. One additional thing to point out about this, all selection tools work hand in hand. Make a selection with one tool, you can modify it with another. That's been one powerful feature that Adobe has always embraced with Photoshop. This is still true with the selection brush. I'm just going to grab the marquee tool here. I'm just going to draw a rectangle over my subject. I have marching ants here. I go to the selection brush. I now have this as a box. So let's say I wanted to soften this. I could come into the edges here and just kind of feather this rectangular selection by doing something like this. There we go. And then, of course, I can go back to the marquee tool. If I wanted to move this, I can move this up a little bit. And then, of course, Command J just to put this on a new layer so you can see what that looks like. So these tools will work hand in hand with each other. A very nice feature. Whether it's a feature you use, I'm not too sure. I mean, this would be a great way to start a adjustment layer, like if you wanted to brighten or darken down or saturate or desaturate. But that is actually very interesting because it leads us right into the new tool, which is the adjustment brush tool. So take everything that you've just learned about the selection brush and the adjustment brush tool on my toolbar, at least I'm in single column. It's about 2/3 the way down. It looks like a brush icon with the adjustment layer icon next to it. And of course, because we could customize the toolbar now, you'll have to go ahead and do a search for this, but it is there. It's brand new. So this is a new tool and it has its own space on the toolbar. Now, again, the adjustment brush is the selection brush plus an adjustment layer. When you click on this, your options bar will give you the tool information. At the very top, you could choose what type of adjustment layer that you're going to make. The minute you start to paint or draw, whatever that you're going to do, you're also going to immediately get an adjustment layer. So you want to make sure that you have the correct adjustment layer selected first. I'm just going to do exposure here. It's really unimportant what the adjustment layer is. You have the ability to add or subtract. You have your brush options. You have some of your other specific tools here. You could turn your overlay on and off. You have opacity and you also have flow. So you have basically all of your drawing tools plus the ability to make an adjustment brush. So I'll come in, again, I'll use my little keyboard shortcut, Control and Option or Control right click on Windows, live brush here. I'll make my hardness very soft on 0. I'll make a little bit of a smaller brush here and I'll just start to paint over the face a little bit, maybe the shoulders, maybe this wing, kind of come down into here and draw just a little bit more attention to the face. Now, when I do this, several things happen. My properties panel opens up and shows me the properties of the adjustment layer that I can make the changes here. Exposure is a little too harsh. I will go ahead and lower that down just a little bit. And of course, I have my adjustment layer created in my layers panel. So it's done all of this for you automatically in the background. All that you had to do was paint. Now, I personally don't know if I'm going to use this a lot because I'm set in my ways. There's just no way around it. I've just become that old get off my lawn Photoshop user. But I can see people who are just getting into Photoshop or been using Photoshop for a while and they're just getting into adjustment layers using this a lot. Because the beauty is you don't have to worry about creating the layer, then flipping masks around and inverting things or anything like that. You could just start painting, have your adjustments selected beforehand, and then paint exactly where you want that adjustment to go. So while the selection brush maybe will be something that I can see people incorporating, I do see this, the more I play around with it as I've been preparing for this update video, the more I see it having potential in your workflow. So these are the two new tools inside of Adobe Photoshop's July 2024 update. Now there's some other minor features. I'm not going to talk about this, but the last feature I'm going to talk about has to deal with AI. I'm going to come up to File and I'm going to go to New and I'm going to create a brand new document. And I mentioned that I'm set in my ways, get off my lawn Photoshop user. I still use the old dialog new document window here. I'm going to do an 8x10, 300 pixels per inch, RGB, 8-bit, transparent background. I'll go ahead and click OK. So I have a brand new document. Now, before the July 2024 update, you could use Generate AI to create new background elements, new foreground elements, but you couldn't use it to create a brand new photo. You can now, and you can do it a couple of different ways. First of all, you could turn on the contextual taskbar inside of Photoshop, which I'm just not a fan of. There's my little pop-up window that I need to turn off, but you could hide this, and I certainly do because I don't need another floating window, Adobe. Thank you very much. You could come up to edit and use generate image, which is probably the way that I'm going to use because I still like to use the menu bar. But there's also an icon at the very bottom of the toolbar that does the same thing. Regardless of what interface that you use, when you access this, you will open up a pop-up window and it will allow you to generate an entire image in this window. And they have some nice features here. You could content type, you could go between art and photo. I'm just going to stick very basic for time here, and I'm just going to type in angry panda. Actually, you know what? Let's go one step further. Let's call it an evil panda. I've never seen an evil panda before. Let's see what AI thinks an evil panda looks like. Now, through the power of editing, I didn't want to have you watch blue bars go across the screen. I have now an evil panda. In fact, if I go to my properties panel, I have 3 options for said evil panda. And I have to say, overall, I'm kind of digging it. I'm not going to lie. A lot of people, including myself, are afraid that AI is going to destroy photography, and we could definitely have that discussion in another video. But I will say this, if you're a graphics designer or an illustrator, this is terrifying because this looks really good. Also, it looks so good. I was playing around with this beforehand and I've left it open. I typed in husky as a ninja and I got these images. Now, what's also interesting is you could continue to type and it will keep your 3 previews for every time that you typed. So this was my first series here, husky as a ninja. And then I just simply hit generate again and it gave me 3 new ones. And by the way, I'm kind of digging all of them. And then I decided to go one step further on my last set and I typed in Japanese woodblock art husky as ninja. And I got these handsome devils here. This one just blowing me away. Now, I will say that, you could have the debate on whether or not AI is a good thing or a bad thing. But the fact now that you can create an entire image using Generate AI, and of course, there's a lot of options. You could definitely get deeper into this. It has a lot of potential. Whether that potential is good or bad, I'll leave that up to you. You might like it. You might not like it. Speaking of liking, I hope you have liked this video. If you have, please hit like, please hit subscribe. Please share this with friends of yours and maybe you're using Photoshop and would be interested in this update. Check out the other content that we have on the channel. I thank you for your time and watching. Leave some comments down below. What do you think of the new tools? What do you think of this new Generate AI? I would love to hear back from you. And until next time, I'm MD Welch, wishing you all the best from PhotoKitchen.